I've been asked to talk about sibling rivalry in adults, and I found it quite an interesting subject. And I've seen lots of clients come to me with it. I've seen sibling rivalry go through into people's 60s and 70s. For me, sibling rivalry in adults comes from violent communication, where siblings haven't learned in their childhood how to be gentle to themselves or gentle to their family, and so the sibling rivalry keeps on going and going and going. It's an interesting process, this, because when an adult goes back to the child's home, they often turn back into the child energetically. So when two siblings come back together, that old sibling rivalry from their childhood, which is quite aggressive and violent, trying to find and bounce off each other to find who they are, comes back into play. And that sibling rivalry just keeps on going. And it can be extremely childish, it can be extremely corny, it can be extremely violent. It can be very unpleasant for people. And a way that I would work with that, with a client who comes to me and says to me, I keep arguing with my sister, I keep arguing with my brother, there's always this rivalry, I would connect them into that childhood energy. I would look at that energy and realize that they're still hurt because they weren't being seen or heard. They're still hurt from their childhood because they aren't yet able to define, understand that process. And their sibling isn't either. Their sibling is still being triggered into the same process as when they were children. So the difference between sibling rivalry as children and as adults really isn't anything. It's the same thing with bigger words, with longer words, with more violence, really. So sibling rivalry would often end as children with a wrestle or a tumble or a scream or a shout or a cry. Adults do that more often with violent words, violent ways of saying, frustration, often family breakups where they don't want to see each other ever again, because of something that's happened from their childhood. They haven't been heard, they haven't been seen, they haven't been understood. And as an adult, the only person you can blame for sibling rivalry is yourself, because you're not hearing your needs, you're not understanding what's happening for you, and you're still feeling hurt because your sibling isn't giving you what you want and what you need. In that case, you're not dealing with your stuff. So with sibling rivalry, I would take a person really into their own stuff, to deal with their own stuff, to feel into what's going on for them. So when the other sibling comes in and tries to create that childhood energetics, they've passed it now. It doesn't work anymore. And what happens when you use non-violent processes, when one person goes into non-violent process, the other person has no choice but to go into non-violent process. A violent energy meeting a violent energy stays in a violent energy. But a violent energy that's meeting a contained energy, a controlled energy, just goes past. It cannot process. So learning to deal with your childhood traumas will help you deal with adult sibling rivalry.
Is it possible for one to move on and one to not?
Oh yes, sure. But most generally, the one that doesn't move on is simply not doing any inner child work, any self-awareness, okay? But very likely, the one that has moved on could go and address the other one, go and speak to them about it gently, with no violence, okay? And say, I don't want this to be our relationship. I want us to have a better relationship. I want us to be able to sit down and communicate. And I've seen this work many times. I've seen this work. I've seen the client right in front of me phone up their sister and say, I love you. I just want you to know I love you. I want to spend time with you. I love you. I don't want to do this arguing anymore. I realize my responsibility in that. And it changed their relationship. It really changed it. On the phone right there, she had to do it right in front of me. It was so important to her. Just to say, I love you. I care about you. And this rivalry needs to come to an end. That's how important it is.